The gathering storm. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was alive with whispers. Glowing lights lined the curved walls, and thousands of alien eyes turned toward the center stage. Today was meant to be historic, a day of peace, a day when Earth would finally take its seat among the stars. The Council expected quiet diplomats, soft voices, and eager hands ready to sign treaties. The alien delegates leaned close to one another, trading jokes in hushed tones. They are young, their world still green, their people too new to power. One insectoid whispered, "They will send weak envoys. They will beg for approval." Another added with a dry laugh. The air in the chamber carried arrogance, as if the fate of humanity was already decided before the meeting even began. But as the heavy doors opened, silence fell like a blade. 3 humans stepped inside, each wearing sharp business suits black as void. They walked with slow, controlled steps, their shoulders straight, their eyes calm, yet piercing. There was no nervousness, no bowing, no signs of weakness. The chamber full of predators suddenly felt preyed upon. Whispers rose again, but now they were nervous. "Where are the diplomats?" asked a scaled delegate with twitching fins. "Why do they walk like hunters?" murmured another. The humans carried no weapons that could be seen, yet their very presence made every other species feel smaller. At the center table, one of them laid down a small leather case. The sound echoed far louder than expected, like thunder in a storm. Every alien eye locked onto the case, wondering if it was a weapon or perhaps a message. The humans said nothing. They simply took their seats, their silence more unsettling than any speech. The leader of the council, a tall feathered being named Koresh, tried to keep his voice steady. "Welcome, humans of Earth. We thank you for honoring us with your diplomats." But even as he spoke the word diplomats, his throat tightened, because nothing about the humans felt like diplomacy. The tallest of them, a man with short gray hair, leaned back in his chair and smiled. It was not a friendly smile, it was the kind of smile that predators give before they strike. The other 2 mirrored him, calm, confident, perfectly silent. The silence stretched until the council members shifted uncomfortably. It was as if the humans had already taken control of the room without saying a single word. One alien delegate, a young reptilian, tried to break the tension. He laughed and said loudly, "Perhaps Earth has confused peace talks with fashion shows." The joke fell flat. The sound of his voice cracked, because when the gray-haired human turned his eyes on him, the reptilian froze. It was the look of something ancient, something that measured him not as an equal, but as prey. The council felt it too. These humans did not sit like diplomats, they sat like predators dressed for a hunt. Every small movement, the way they folded their hands, the way they leaned forward, was sharp and deliberate. Their suits, clean and formal, somehow made them look more dangerous, not less. They were not hiding strength. They were showing restraint, and that restraint was more terrifying than open threat. Koresh cleared his throat again, feathers trembling. "Perhaps we can begin with introductions," he said, voice tight. But the humans did not rush to answer. They simply exchanged a look with one another as if speaking without words. Finally, the gray-haired man reached forward and tapped the case once, gently. The sound echoed again. Like a hammer in silence, the aliens waited, breathless. Was this the moment Earth revealed their message? Was it peace or war? The case remained unopened, but already it felt like a warning. The humans leaned back again, calm, patient, watching. It was not them under pressure, it was the entire galaxy. By now, the whispers had changed. Why do they not speak? What are they planning? Are these really diplomats? No one dared say it aloud. But the truth was clear in every trembling voice. Earth had not sent envoys. Earth had sent something else. Something far older, far more dangerous. Predators who wore suits instead of claws. The tension thickened with every passing second. Even the hum of the chamber seemed quieter. The aliens realized they had been wrong to mock humanity. They expected weakness. But what they saw in front of them was control. Cold and deliberate, the gathering storm had arrived. not with weapons or warships, but with 3 humans in business suits who made the galaxy tremble. And as the first minute of silence stretched into the second, the Council understood the most terrifying truth. The humans had not even begun to speak yet, and already they were winning. The smile of predators. The chamber air felt heavy, as if the very walls leaned closer to listen. The council members shifted nervously, their confidence from earlier gone. Every eye was locked on the 3 humans who had entered like silent storms. Still, the leather case sat on the table, untouched, a mystery that grew more dangerous with every passing breath. Finally, the shortest of the 3 humans leaned forward, her hair tied neatly behind her head, her eyes sharp like glass. When she smiled, it was small, almost polite, yet the effect was chilling. Because her smile was not warmth, it was calculation. It was the smile of a predator who already knew the outcome of the hunt. The aliens felt it at once. Laughter and whispers died in their throats. One by one, they looked away from her, afraid to meet her gaze for too long. It was not just fear of her. It was the memory of something ancient hidden inside her expression. A reminder that predators do not need to bare fangs to be terrifying. Sometimes, a simple smile is enough. An amphibian delegate coughed, trying to lighten the tension. "Surely Earth does not mean to frighten us," he said. But his words trembled at the edges, and he knew it. The woman tilted her head slightly as if curious. Then she tapped a single finger against the table, slow and steady. The sound echoed like a clock counting down. Every tap reminded them of how patient hunters could be, and how quickly patience could break into violence. The gray-haired man beside her leaned forward now, his hands clasped. "I believe introductions are unnecessary," he said, voice low and even. "After all, you already know who we are." The way he spoke was strange, not arrogant, not angry, just calm. But calmness in that moment was worse than rage, because it meant he had no doubt, no hesitation. The council realized these humans did not come here to ask for anything. They came here to decide. Another delegate, this one a towering insectoid, tried to reclaim the room. He clacked his mandibles and hissed, "This is a place of peace, not intimidation." But before his words could echo, the 3rd human finally moved. He was silent until now, his broad shoulders still as stone. Now he leaned forward and smiled as well, slow and deliberate. It was not the smile of humor, but of sharp teeth hidden behind lips. And though his teeth were blunt, every alien imagined them tearing. The insectoid froze, its words dying instantly. The chamber filled again with silence, but this silence was different. It was no longer awkward. It was fear. The humans exchanged no words among themselves. Instead, they watched, waiting, letting the silence crawl over the room. It was a game only predators could play, to speak less, but to make every second feel louder. The council members realized they had already lost the balance. They were reacting, stammering, twitching while the humans remained still. Stillness was power, and Earth wielded it like a blade. At last, the woman in the suit spoke again, her voice soft. "We were invited here as diplomats, yes," she said. "But diplomacy is built on respect." Her eyes swept across the chamber, meeting every alien gaze. "And respect must be earned," she added with that same small smile. The effect was immediate. The delegates shifted in their seats. Feathers ruffled, tails twitched, wings buzzed. For the first time in years, the council chamber felt less like a place of authority and more like a trap, and they were the prey inside. The humans had not raised their voices, had not shown weapons, had not opened the case, and yet the balance of power was already broken. One delegate, desperate, slammed a hand on the table. "This is madness," he shouted. "You cannot come here and threaten the council." But his voice cracked, and the humans did not even bother to look at him. The gray-haired man simply adjusted his tie. That single movement carried more weight than any shouted word, because predators did not need to roar to be feared. Whispers filled the chamber again, but this time they were frantic. Why are they so calm? What do they know that we don't? What is in the case? The mystery grew, fear feeding on silence. The humans knew it. They used it. Every second without an answer was another second the council drowned in doubt. Finally, the woman leaned forward once more, her smile soft but unshakable. When wolves enter a room of sheep, do the sheep demand to know why the wolves are smiling? She asked quietly. The words hit harder than any weapon. The chamber went dead silent. No delegate dared to respond. The meaning was clear. Earth was not here to plead. Earth was here to remind the galaxy what true predators looked like, the gray-haired. Man tapped the case once more, his smile widening just slightly. And with that single sound, the fear in the chamber deepened. Because now every alien knew the truth. They had underestimated humanity. The predators had arrived in suits, and the hunt had already begun. The predators speak. The chamber had grown too quiet. Every whisper was gone. Every alien delegate sat stiff in their seat. The humans had not raised their voices, had not even opened their case. And yet, the balance of power in the room had already shifted. The galaxy's most powerful council was now waiting, watching, afraid to breathe too loudly. At last, the gray-haired man rose from his chair. His movements were slow, steady, as if the outcome of this meeting was already known. He adjusted his suit jacket, tugged it into place, and placed both hands flat on the table. The sound echoed like thunder. The chamber flinched. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, deep, and measured. But in that calmness was something sharper than steel. You invited Earth to speak, he said, and so we will speak. His words were not many, but they cut through the chamber. The delegates leaned forward despite themselves, drawn like prey leaning closer to a predator's mouth. The human's gaze swept across the hall, fixing on no one and yet everyone. And in those eyes, the council saw no fear, only certainty. You asked for diplomats, he continued. You asked for treaties, for signatures, for promises written in ink. He paused, letting silence stretch long enough for hearts to pound. But Earth does not come with promises, he said, voice dropping lower. Earth comes with consequences. A shiver ran through the chamber. The words carried weight not from volume, but from the history behind them. Every species in that room knew of Earth's strange rise, how a small blue world had survived wars, storms, plagues, and disasters that should have ended them. But instead of breaking, humanity had grown sharper, stronger, deadlier. The galaxy called them young, yet their scars told another story. The second human, the woman with tied hair, leaned forward and spoke next. Her voice was smooth, almost soft, but it carried a cold edge that cut deeper than any shout. Diplomacy without respect is worthless, she said, and respect is not given freely. It is taken. Her smile returned, thin and sharp. We are here to make sure you understand that. The delegates shifted uncomfortably, wings fluttering, mandibles clicking, feathers trembling. One small rodent-like alien whispered, "This is not negotiation, this is domination." The words were meant to be quiet, but the humans heard. The third man, broad-shouldered and silent until now, finally raised his head. He did not need to stand. His voice carried the weight of a hammer. You misunderstand, he said. This is survival. Gasps rippled across the chamber for a moment. The delegates felt the truth of those words deep in their bones. This was not theater, not performance. The humans spoke as if the galaxy itself had already been judged and found lacking, and the predators had stepped in to correct it. One alien, braver than the rest or perhaps more foolish, stood. His scales glittered as he hissed, "You dare threaten the council? You sit in this chamber as guests, not rulers." The gray-haired man slowly turned his head toward him, and then for the first time he smiled. It was not cruel. It was not mocking. It was the kind of smile wolves gave before tearing apart a deer. The scaled alien sat back down instantly, breath caught in his throat. No more words came. The woman tapped her finger on the case, once, twice. Then she slid it slowly toward the center of the table. Every delegate leaned back, afraid. Would it be a weapon, a device, a threat made real? The woman said nothing, her smile enough. The gray-haired man finally spoke again, his voice steady. You will find our terms inside, he said. But know this, those papers are not requests. They are instructions. The word instructions hit like a blade. The chamber erupted into nervous whispers. No one instructs the council. One hissed, "This is madness." Another growled, yet not one of them reached for the case. Not one dared to open it because deep down every one of them already knew what they would find inside. Not diplomacy, but dominance written in ink. Not promises, but demands. The broad-shouldered human leaned forward, his eyes locked on the council leader, Koresh, who trembled under the gaze. "Understand this," he said quietly. "Earth does not want your war. But Earth is built for war." His words rolled across the chamber like thunder. We survived storms that swallowed nations, fires that burned continents, wars that ended worlds. And we did not break. We learned. He leaned back again, voice lowering. "And now we are here to teach." The chamber was silent once more. But this time it was not just fear. It was acceptance. The council had wanted diplomats, envoys, petitioners. Instead, they had received teachers. And the lesson was clear. Humanity was not a student in this galaxy. Humanity was the predator in a galaxy of prey. The gray-haired man folded his hands and said softly, "We are not here to win arguments. We are here to decide the future." And with those words, the chamber felt smaller, darker. Trapped in the shadow of Earth's will, the predators had spoken, and the galaxy could only listen. Fear in the chamber. The Galactic Council chamber had never felt so small. Hundreds of alien delegates sat frozen in silence, their bodies stiff, their eyes wide. The humans had spoken fewer words than any other envoys in history, yet already the entire chamber was trembling beneath the weight of their presence. Koresh, the feathered leader of the council, tried to steady his breathing. His wings twitched, his feathers puffed involuntarily, a sign of fear he could not hide. He had presided over wars, disputes, entire planetary crises, but never before had three figures in business suits shaken the chamber so completely. It was not what they said, it was how they carried themselves. Predators did not need to shout to rule. The silence pressed tighter, until even the humming lights of the chamber seemed too loud. Finally, one delegate, desperate to end the tension, spoke up. A feline alien with golden fur leaned forward, claws tapping the table nervously. "Earth cannot expect us to bow to threats," she said, her voice firm but cracking at the edges. The gray-haired human looked at her, and in that single glance the fight drained from her. Her claws retracted, her tail flicked with unease, and she looked away. No reply had been spoken, but the silence itself was answer enough. Then came the breaking point. A young alien from a smaller race, scales glittering under the chamber lights, tried to rise. His voice rang out, desperate and defiant. "You think you can terrify us with stares and silence, but this is the council. We do not bend to humans." He motioned toward the guards lining the walls. "Remove them," he ordered. The guards hesitated, none willing to move, their hands twitching but their eyes locked on the humans. It was not loyalty that held them. It was instinct, the primal refusal to step toward predators. The broad-shouldered human finally moved. He leaned forward, his voice low, calm, and filled with warning. "Do not order your prey to attack predators," he said. The words cut through, the hall like lightning. The scaled alien froze mid-breath, his command dying instantly. The guards looked down, ashamed, their weapons untouched. The humiliation spread across the chamber like fire. Everyone realized the truth. Those who claimed authority could not even make their guards obey when predators sat at the table. A wave. A fear rippled outward. Delegates whispered among themselves, frantic and hushed. "They are not diplomats. They are hunters. They came here for control." But not one of them dared speak those words aloud, because the humans heard everything. Their ears twitched at whispers. Their gazes moved slowly from one frightened face to another. They drank in the fear, and the chamber knew it. The woman in the suit tapped her finger on the case again. Once, twice, slow and steady. Every delegate flinched with each tap as if waiting for a hidden bomb to explode. She leaned forward, her voice soft but sharp. "You misunderstand," she said, her smile unshaken. "We are not here to threaten. You." The words hung in the air like a knife. "We are here to remind you." Koresh forced himself to speak, though his throat felt like stone. "Remind us of what?" he asked, his voice a whisper of what it once was. The woman's eyes swept across the chamber, her smile wider now. "That survival does not belong to the strongest numbers," she said. "It belongs to those who know how to hunt." Gasps filled the room. For many species, survival meant unity, treaties, compromise. But the humans spoke of survival as something far more primal, not about peace, but about dominance. And dominance was something the galaxy had not seen in thousands of years. The reptilian who had mocked them earlier tried to speak again, his voice trembling. "You, humans, you cannot control us all," he stammered. The gray-haired man slowly straightened, his hands folded on the table. "We already are," he said, calm and sure. The chamber froze. It was not arrogance. It was not empty threat. It was truth, spoken with terrifying certainty. Koresh felt the weight of every eye turned toward him. The council leader was supposed to stand strong, to represent unity. But under the gaze of predators in suits, his body betrayed him. His wings trembled, his beak clacked softly, and he lowered his head ever so slightly. It was enough, the chamber saw it. The leader of the council had bowed, even if only by instinct, and the humans saw it too. The broad-shouldered man leaned back in his chair, satisfied. The woman smiled brighter. The gray-haired man adjusted his tie and said nothing. Silence returned, but now it was no longer resistance, it was surrender growing quietly in the air. The predators had not spoken much. They had not raised their voices, they had not touched weapons. And yet the chamber was theirs. The galaxy's greatest council sat frozen in fear. Every whisper, every twitch, every lowered gaze proved one thing. The humans had not come to plead for peace. They had come to remind the galaxy of its place. And in that place, humanity stood above. The council had expected weakness, diplomacy, compromise. Instead, they had received fear itself, dressed neatly in business suits. And the worst part was still to come. The humans had not even opened their case yet. The test of power. The chamber was no longer a place of debate. It felt like a cage filled with nervous prey. Every alien eye flicked between the humans and the unopened leather case that sat in the center of the table. It had not moved except for the soft taps of the woman's finger. Yet it had become the most dangerous object in the galaxy. The scaled delegate who had shouted earlier forced himself to stand once more. His legs shook, but pride burned in his chest. "If you think you can control us with silence and stares, you are mistaken," he hissed. He gestured again toward the guards, his voice cracking. "Remove them at once." The guards shifted, but again none moved forward. It was not cowardice, it was instinct. Every soldier in that room knew stepping toward the humans felt like stepping into the open jaws of predators. The silence of their refusal spread through the chamber like poison. The scaled delegate's face flushed with shame, his tail lashing angrily. "You see?" he roared. "Even your presence corrupts discipline. This is not diplomacy, this is—" He never finished, because the broad-shouldered human finally reached for the case. Every delegate stiffened, some even gasping out loud. He lifted it with calm ease, then placed it back down with a soft thud. Slowly, deliberately, he unlatched the lock and opened it. Inside was not a weapon, not a device, not a bomb. It was a single, ordinary pen. Confusion rippled through the chamber. Delegates leaned forward, whispering, "A pen? What does it mean? Is this some kind of trick?" But the humans did not answer. The broad-shouldered man lifted the pen and clicked it once. The sound echoed like a trigger pulled in the silence. Then he placed a single sheet of paper before him, and without a word, he signed his name across. The moment the ink touched paper, the chamber lights flickered. The consoles in front of each delegate lit up at once. Lines of new text scrolled across their displays. Treaties, rewritten in real time. Agreements altered. Laws reshaped. Every clause shifted, every balance of power tilted. The council stared in shock. What is this? How? The gray-haired man finally spoke, his voice calm. Your networks are not as secure as you believed, he said. Your laws are not as untouchable as you assumed. He gestured toward the consoles. Earth has been watching, listening, preparing. He leaned forward, his gaze sharp. Today is not the beginning of negotiation, it is the conclusion. Panic spread like wildfire. Some delegates tried to shut down their consoles, smashing keys. Others shouted to their aides outside the chamber, but the text remained, flowing like a river that could not be stopped. Every law, every vote, every decision was being bent, reshaped, and the humans had done it with nothing more than a pen. The feline delegate who had spoken earlier rose from her seat, her fur bristling. "This is invasion," she cried. Her voice trembled but still carried defiance. The woman in the suit turned to her and smiled softly. "No," she said. "This is proof." She tapped the pen once against the paper. Proof that power is not always in weapons or armies, but in preparation, in control, in the ability to strike without lifting a sword. The feline's claws flexed, but she sat down slowly. Because deep in her chest, she knew the truth. The humans were not bluffing. They had already won. Before stepping into the chamber, Koresh, the council leader, finally spoke, his feathers trembling. "What is it you want from us?" he asked quietly. His voice lacked strength. It was not the tone of a ruler. It was the tone of someone who already knew he had lost. The gray-haired man leaned closer, his hands folded before him. "What we want," he said, voice sharp and steady, "is respect." He paused, letting the words sink deep. Without it, there is no peace, only correction. The chamber shook with whispers. Correction? What do they mean by correction? But none dared ask directly, because the human's eyes moved slowly from one delegate to the next, and in every glance was the promise that correction would not be gentle. The broad-shouldered man placed the pen back into the case and closed it. He locked it with a soft snap, and when the lock clicked, it sounded louder than thunder. It was not just the closing of a case. It was the closing of the galaxy's illusion of control. The council realized the truth. The test had been simple. The humans had shown they could take command without a weapon, without an army. All it took was a pen, a single stroke of ink, and the galaxy was already bent beneath their will. The gray-haired man leaned back in his chair, his voice soft. "Do not mistake this for war," he said, "because war is something you cannot imagine." He adjusted his tie, his eyes glinting like steel. This was only a reminder, and with that, the chamber fell into silence again. But this silence was not born of confusion or defiance. It was born of fear, because now every delegate understood the truth. Humanity had not come to argue. Humanity had come to demonstrate, and the demonstration had just begun. The predators, warning. The council chamber was silent again, but it was no longer the silence of arrogance, it was the silence of prey, waiting for the predator to speak. Every delegate sat frozen, their eyes locked on the humans. The case was closed now, the pen hidden away, yet its echo still lingered like thunder. Koresh, the feathered leader, swallowed hard, his voice breaking as he tried to regain order. "You have made your point," he said, "but intimidation is not alliance. Threats are not respect." His words were brave on the surface, but his feathers trembled, betraying him. The humans did not respond right away. They let the silence stretch again, squeezing the chamber tighter and tighter. Finally, the broad-shouldered man leaned forward, his voice low. "You misunderstand," he said, calm as still water. "We are not here to threaten." He paused, letting every eye focus on him. "We are here to warn." The woman in the suit smiled again, small and sharp. "Warnings are different from threats," she said softly. "Threats are empty. They require you to believe in lies. A warning is a promise, it is truth dressed in advance." Her gaze moved slowly from face to face, and Earth does not lie. The gray-haired man stood once more, adjusting his suit as he did. When he spoke, his voice carried not through volume but through weight. "Understand this," he said. "We do not seek war, but do not mistake that for weakness. We know war better than any of you." A ripple of unease swept through the chamber. Every species there had fought battles, waged wars, lost soldiers, but none could match the brutality of Earth's history. None had lived through endless centuries of blood, fire, and survival. The humans' words were not exaggeration. They were fact, and that fact was more terrifying than any weapon. As the broad-shouldered man continued, his voice steady. "You look at us and see diplomats in suits, but you are wrong." He tapped his chest once. "These are not suits of peace. They are camouflage." His smile grew faint, cold. "We wear them, so you forget what we really are," the feline delegate whispered under her breath. "And what are you?" The woman answered, her smile never fading. "Predators," she said simply. The word echoed across the chamber like a storm. Koresh tried again, desperation in his tone. "If you claim to seek respect, then give us reason to believe Earth will not destroy what it cannot control." The gray-haired man's eyes locked on him, and the chamber seemed to grow colder. "Because we do not destroy what we can control," he said evenly. "We destroy what refuses to learn." The council members stiffened, fear gripping their hearts. This was no longer politics, no longer debate. This was survival, raw and primal. The humans had laid it bare. Cooperate or vanish. No middle ground, no escape. The woman leaned forward, her voice softer now, almost gentle. "Do you know why humanity survived?" she asked. She did not wait for an answer. "We survived because every storm, every famine, every war, every predator taught us something. We survived because pain is our teacher, and survival is our instinct." Her smile widened. "And now we are here to be your teacher." Gasps spread. Some delegates shouted in protest, "We are not your students. We are rulers of the galaxy." But the humans did not flinch. The broad-shouldered man chuckled once, low and sharp. "Then, why do you tremble when we speak?" he asked. No one answered. Because the truth was plain. Every twitch of claws, every flutter of wings, every shiver of scales betrayed them. They were trembling. They were prey. The gray-haired man raised a hand, silencing the chamber with just the motion. "This is your warning," he said clearly. "If you mock us, if you dismiss us, if you challenge us, there will be no second chance." He pointed one finger at the delegates, slow and steady. "Respect Earth, or be hunted." The chamber went deathly still. The words were not shouted, yet they rang louder than any battle cry. Aliens who once laughed at humanity now sat pale and silent. The image of Earth was no longer that of a young species. It was the image of wolves in human skin. Apex predators who had walked into the council chamber wearing business suits. The woman closed the case gently, her voice soft as silk. "This is not a choice," she said. "It is a reminder." The gray-haired man nodded once. "The galaxy will remember," he said, and with that, the humans leaned back in their seats. No weapons drawn, no armies needed, only their words, their silence, and their warning, and in that silence the chamber understood. The warning was not just for today, it was for the future of the galaxy itself. The council bows, the warning still hung in the air, sharp as a blade. No one moved, no one spoke. The chamber was frozen under. The weight of humanity's words, predators had spoken, and prey had listened. The council had expected polite voices, soft hands ready for compromise. Instead, they had met cold eyes, calm silence, and a warning that shook their very bones. Koresh, the feathered leader, felt the weight of every gaze. His people looked to him for strength, but there was none left in him. He tried to raise his wings high, to stand tall, but they shook uncontrollably. The truth pressed down on him. He was not leading, he was surviving, and survival meant lowering his head, one by one. The delegates shifted. The feline tucked her claws back into her hands. The insectoid folded its mandibles, no longer hissing. The reptilian who had shouted before looked down at the floor, refusing to meet the human's eyes. The chamber, once filled with arrogance and laughter, was now filled with silence, a silence of surrender. The gray-haired man adjusted his tie once more. It was a small movement, but it felt like a signal. The humans did not need cheers. They did not need applause. They needed only acknowledgement, and they had it. The woman in the suit leaned forward, her smile calm. "Good," she said softly. Her words spread like cold water through the chamber. "You understand now?" No one dared answer, but the truth was clear. They understood. The broad-shouldered man tapped the closed case once with his finger. That simple sound echoed louder than any speech. It was not just a case now. It was a symbol, a reminder that humans did not need armies in the room to control it. All they needed was presence, silence, and certainty. Koresh finally broke the silence, his voice shaking. "We will respect Earth," he whispered. The words felt heavy, bitter, yet necessary, because to refuse would mean destruction. The council leader of the galaxy had bowed, and in that bow, the rest followed. The reptilian lowered his gaze fully. The feline pressed her hands flat against the table in quiet surrender. The insectoid bent his head low, mandibles clicking nervously, row by row, delegation by delegation. The council bent to Earth's will. It was not forced with weapons, not commanded. With threats, it was taken with silence and fear. The gray-haired man gave a single nod. Nothing more, nothing less. That nod was all it took, because it said what no words needed to. Earth had come. Earth had spoken. Earth had won. The chamber would remember. This day not as the day of diplomacy, not as the day of peace, but as the day predators walked into their hall dressed in business suits, the day the galaxy realized humans were not envoys, but enforcers, not negotiators, but hunters. And once hunters set their eyes on prey, the hunt was already decided. The woman stood now, smoothing her suit as she rose. She did not gloat, she did not smile wide. She only looked at the chamber and said, "Remember this silence." Because silence was the moment they had bowed. Silence was the sound of surrender. The broad-shouldered man picked up the case, locking it with a soft snap. The sound echoed finality, and then the three humans turned toward the doors. They walked as they had entered, calm, slow, deliberate. Predators among prey, leaving without haste, without fear. Every step reminded the council that Earth did not beg. Earth did not plead, Earth decided. As the heavy doors closed behind them, the chamber remained still. No one dared to speak for a long moment, and when they finally did, it was only in whispers. The predators wore suits. They did not need warships. They already rule. The galaxy had laughed once. They had called Earth young, weak, fragile, but after this day no one would laugh again, because they had seen the truth. Earth was not here to join the galaxy. Earth was here to lead it. The council had bowed, and the galaxy would follow.